Before he died, he told the U.S., he said, I'm warning you to relying on your fiscal responsibility that you have caused. This paperback money that's based on nothing. Trusting in government to handle this for you and know that it's going to make it all good will cause for a very big chaotic event. It will cause panic because when we print money and it's not backed by anything, we will see the repercussions of it. Now, this was a warning from years ago, but what he said years ago is ringing true right now. Let's talk about our money. Let's talk about the fact of what we should be doing with our money. If cash is king right now, but it won't be worth much because they're looking for a new version, what are the things that we should be buying, purchasing? What should we be doing with our cash? And how should we heed this warning? Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up. It sure does mean the world to me. I humbly ask that you do that, especially if you like today's content. Now you hear the wind is blowing like crazy. The rain just moved out. We had a storm throughout the night, the Hurricane Francine. Pretty much we went through without a problem. A lot of rain, of course, and there's some limbs down, but nothing serious. So far that I haven't seen. But hopefully we will look up like most people and say, you know, God, thank you for the blessings of rain. But ultimately, I'm glad we went through it and it's over. Now, let's talk about the severity of today. I wish that natural occurrences would be the only things that we are have risk to. Sadly, our government has put us in a very big bind when it comes to our money. It comes to really what is value of money? What is cash? What is paper? What is value of Bitcoin? What is value of all this stuff based on the the rainforest or based on this backed trust of the government? What is cash? Is it something we should be worried about? I want to bring this up, and then we're going to go a little bit deeper. But Thomas Jefferson, this is an article from Zero Hedge, but Thomas Jefferson always pushed against the fact of a federal monetary system such as the Fed kind of setting precedent policy for the government, because he knew relying on paper money and relying on bureaucracy is not the key for true money. He says the danger of money printing, Thomas Jefferson and the Financial Panic of 1819. It says, to steal the phrase from Thomas Jefferson, the Federal Reserve and the U.S. government have buried us under a deluge of money. Now, let's think about this. Now, this is Thomas Jefferson, one of our first founding fathers. He is saying, heed this warning, because when the government touches something, the one that he helped formulate, but he was saying, we formulated it for freedom, nothing else, to be a back security for people, meaning at last resort, the government steps in. At last resort, the government insures. Basically, you people can do this without the government, including money. Now, money was based on something valuable, such as assets. What is value? Is it land? Is it gold? Is it silver? Is it food? Well, all those would be yes, resounding yes. Was paper money bad? That's not what he was saying. He was saying if money is not based on anything other than trust or on risk, then what is true money? Because how can we trust or take the risk when our government is not fulfilling its obligations to keep sound money? Well, our government has not done that. And we're talking about the panic of 1819. The sad thing is we're looking at a bigger panic of 2024. This article says we deal with the consequences of a monetary malfeasance every time we go to the grocery store and gas station. Rapidly, our money is buying less and less every day. Now, we're considered young, I would still say. But when me and Misty get married back in 06, boy, we were more than poor. But we would go to the grocery and we would buy a whole thing of groceries, a whole buggy of groceries for literally $100. And if we went over that, it was something major. Now, man, $100 won't even buy you almost 2 sacks of groceries. Now, is that the fault of the grocery companies, like Kamala wants to tell you? No. Is that the fact of capitalism? No. It's the fact that the sound money that we once had And the fact that our government wants to inflate money and borrow money and make money and print money to cause for that market to naturally go up is what actually is causing us to falter. Just think, why do we want our products or money or homes or anything like that to inflate? If the government is making more tax basis, that might be a reason. But other than that, why do we actually want inflation to keep on happening? They want to get to a 2% inflation. Can you help me with that? I don't understand why we want a 2% CPI. Why don't we just want 0%? Well, that's kind of what Thomas Jefferson was warning. He was saying, look, when we start printing money, then we're actually making money out of thin air because it's not based on anything, and we're going to run the course of one day not having enough goods or assets to back the dollar or to back the government currency. Boy, has things changed. Would he not freak out to see where we're at right now? When we can't even actually put a dollar amount on what 35 or 36 trillion dollars is, or what the next 30 or 40 or 50 years may look like. Well, that's not going to happen because we have no money. It's not based on anything but the faith in the government. Sadly, because of the petrodollar, because of our situation with Russia and Ukraine, because of BRICS, our faith in our system and the world having faith in our system is getting worse. Now, not to go deep into it, but just like yesterday with NVIDIA and his talk at San Francisco at the Goldman event, basically there was a potential spark of a melt-up. Now, a melt-up is basically when the market inflates and the rich get richer because all those dollars that we're printing is going into the market. So it makes the economy look like it's doing phenomenal, but Main Street America is struggling. So basically it's not a collapse or crash, but it is the exact opposite. But it is what we call a reverse market crash or a melt-up. The Main Street Americans are having the dollars, but the dollars are not going as far as they once did. All the dollars then are flowing into systems to get to the top. It's like frothing milk. The cream is always going to go to the top. It's like my raw milk. The buttercream is going to go to the top because what we're seeing is a true melt-up in our society. Guess what? Hitting record numbers. We're breaking records each and every month. We just went up on our main deficit. Also, households just went up another chunk on credit card debt. Credit card debt went up to another record-breaking number, $10.6 billion. Credit card consumer credit, meaning debt for Americans, have soared to $5.9 trillion. So for normal Americans, we owe $5 trillion just personally, not counting the government debt. You know why I believe there will be a currency reset? Because we cannot stay at this trajectory and expect it to work. I'm going to burst your bubble too. If our currency is based on the government and then people lose faith in the government, our currency lose value. I mean, what do you look at Sri Lanka, look at Venezuela? That's what actually happened. They lost value in the system that, why trust a government that is spending money that they don't have? Now, here's the pushback. Oh, we've got to go to Bitcoin. So now you're saying I'm going to trust my money on a digitized platform that I personally cannot see, that is all speculative, and that is based on the fact of the grid doing well and pushing energy and making sure that I have access to it only when the power is on. Okay, so that's not really a smart system. So now what do we go to? I mean, you honestly have both sides of the parties wanting to go to stable coins and wanting to go to different versions of digitized currencies, because honestly, both parties know that it will fail. We are in a failing monetary system. So what do we do with our cash, Colby? What are you doing with your cash? Well, you don't need to be too cash heavy, but let's go through a little list of what I personally do. This is my personal money and how I look at it. Number one, I'm going to keep cash for safety. Now, here's the way I look at it. We just went through a hurricane. Luckily, we didn't lose power. Luckily, no damage. But this is something we see all the time. If I would have went to the store today and the pumps were running, but there was no, actually, their generators were running their pumps, but there was no electricity, they were not going to take credit cards. They were not going to take Bitcoin. They were not going to take crypto. They were going to take what? Cash. So I keep 3 to 6 months, at least, in a safe place that I have tangible ways to get it. Now, that may not be all in one place, but it's available to where I can get through any tough times for a prolonged period of time. You need to have an emergency fund, and it needs to be pure cash. And it needs to be smaller bills. Don't start getting all these bigger bills. Like, who wants a 50? Nobody even takes a 50 hardly anymore. People still take hundreds, but why? Most places like 20s or below. So be smart when it comes to saving cash. Now, let's skip on to that. What are the other things I can put my wealth into? Thomas Jefferson was talking about how the panics were caused because because people wanted to have speculative currency. They wanted to see the value of how they can grow money quickly. That was how it all started. It was because bureaucracy got into it. It says that central bankers and politicos claim to be fighting for the inflation monster. But the ugly truth is inflation is all by design. The political class is destroying your money as a matter of policy. And now more than ever, because of the debts that we talked about, they're going to destroy it more. So now, besides cash, what are we doing? Well, I'm going to tell you. I personally like to make sure that we're prepping and having the goods that we need. So of course, food and water. Those are easy. Let's get past the kindergarten level stuff. If you got food and water, that's great. What about medicine? Do you know how debilitating life is without medicine? Now, I'm gonna again burst your bubble. We shouldn't have been hooked on all the medicines that we're on. But our food system that we have, which is broken, is causing a lot of problems and causing more people to get on medicine. But guess what? If you don't have it, are you going to be able to live? Think about that. So yeah, we depend on food and water. We depend on the fact that we do want some cash. But if we see the monetary system going like the Panic of 1819 or like the Great Depression, some of the things that Thomas Jefferson warned about was saying sound money will not be sound anymore, especially when it's based on paper or on government. So you've got to have assets, emergency antibiotics, emergency daily supplies of medicine. Now, if you can weed off any medicine, you need to weed off any medicine. Do not be dependent on it. But if you're on something that is life-sustaining and now your life depends on it, you better be checking with emergency medicine companies. People like Jace Medical, Jace Daily. They offer it for any kinds of medicine. And here's what I hear. Well, Colby, that medicine's too high. It's a few $100s. Okay? So if you have it, you've spent a few $100s, and that may cost you a few Starbucks coffees, a few Big Macs. But if you don't have it, then you have no life. Because without life-sustaining measures, what are you to do? Now, that's one step of emergency medicine. Now, what about making sure that you have tinctures, learning how to make tinctures, learning how to have homeopathy, learning how to have herbs to grow? So let's skip the kindergarten stuff of food and water. Now let's move on to emergency medicine, such as making sure you have the prescriptions that you need for safety, for bacterial, for life-sustaining, and you need to talk to someone like Jace Medical, Jace Daily. There's codes below, no big deal. I'm not trying to sell you. I'm just trying to say, let's be honest here. Now let's talk about tinctures. Have you learned how to forage? Have you learned how to make sure that you understand how liquor and how alcohol can help make medicine, make certain medicinal benefits out of herbs and out of flowers come out and be herbal remedies and herbal medicines? Have you thought of homeopathy and having some backup homeopathy medicine? Cleaning up your diet. That's all part of this. So we talk, okay, we have cash, we're putting a little up, we have the fact of emergency medicine. You know what I've learned? You know, with all this craziness going on in the world, in the cities, how can you keep yourself safe? Well, you better start buying assets that can keep you safe. What did Thomas Jefferson believe in more than anything? He believed in freedom. How did they get that freedom? Because they took it. Because they had what they needed. So if you're a man, you better make sure that you're doing all you can to be manly. Now, you can call that bad or good or whatever you want to say, but ultimately, we need to start raising men again. Understanding how to hunt, how to gather, to hold a self-defense tool, how to literally do the things to keep their family safe. You know who wins survival competitions and who outlasts anyone else? It's the people who have skills and know how to do them. Now, that skill comes to men, but also to women. If we don't teach our daughters and our families to do more things and learn how to make do with what you have and understand the value of passed down skills of mending clothes, of learning how to forage, learning how to identify that medicine, that herbal remedy, learning how to identify the mushrooms, learning how to identify the things that we're needing, then we've done nothing. So really it all comes down to making sure that you have cash, making sure you have the emergency medicine or the emergency needs that you need that are bigger than just food and water. Making sure now that we're raising men for defense. Do you have the defense items that you're needing? Have you bought enough of your 2A rights? Have you bought enough brass to go along with that? Have you learned how to reload? Have you learned how to be a hunter-gatherer? Have you learned how to forage, how to cook, how to make things homemade? We're all contributing. You know, when you make things homemade, you're saving money. So it's helping the first part of this where you realize how broken our money system really is. One thing is sad to me. When I go to town, we have worked extremely hard to put up money and save like no one else. And that is truth. And it breaks my heart to see people that are struggling to pay $10 or $15 for something. But at the same time, you see the lines at Burger King and all these fast food joints and all these high-end coffee places and Walmart's buying things that are not necessity, buying wants and not needs. So you better decipher as a man, as a woman, as a family, what are wants, what are needs. Now, let's move straight into the next one. Assets. What are other assets? There's nothing better to hold value in something and hedge against the market than gold and silver. Now, people can push against it. Have your own opinion. This is my opinion. So I buy gold and silver. I love having enough gold and silver. Not to buy bread. When you're thinking on that level, you're thinking kindergarten again. But when the Fed, when China, when Poland, when Russia, when all these other places, India, are stockpiling gold and gold is surging, that means that they see that there was a reset coming. No matter what kind of currency they're going to come up with, it's going to be surveilled currency. No doubt. Digitized forms. But if you have gold, you have something that is strong across the world. You have a world value, not just a country value anymore. You know, if you had Venezuelan currency right now, it's worthless. It's worthless really in Venezuela, but it's definitely worthless across the world. If you have dollars, dollars are worth a lot right now, but one day they won't be because of inflation and because of the way of unsound money that our government's doing, kind of like Thomas Jefferson said. But gold is valued across the world. Silver is valued across the world. It's a pretty big deal. Make sure you have some gold and silver. I like buying from Genesis Gold. You got to find a reputable source now. So make sure you're buying from a reputable source. If you know somebody and you can trust somebody local, great. I even like it better because I buy it with cash and it's between me and that guy. But if I can't, I'm buying from Genesis Gold because they are God-fearing company that kind of stands with my values, and I like that. Conservatives. Very conservative values. I like that. Check them out for sure. Now, lastly, you better learn how to grow food. You better learn how to not only hold those skills, have a place to hold those skills. If you're living in a rented property, understand right now you can't help that. But you better learn how to grow in buckets. You better learn how to utilize money to buy seeds, to buy assets, to buy bartering goods. So it really comes down to, I want to invest in things that are good for my family, but not only that, something that can keep my family going. You know, it's not about money, but if I have beef, or I have seeds, or I have a ground to grow in, or I have a raised bed, or some kind of containers, then now I'm providing food. So this kind of goes back to the third one I brought up, being a man and being a woman and understanding what wants and needs are and understanding how skills can keep you safe. When money falls to pieces, this world is going to go crazy. You know what they're going to go crazy for? Food and water, medicine, drugs, for sure. But if you have it and you don't know how to defend it, they're going to come get it. Well, if you know how to defend it and then you run out of supplies, you better have the land or you better have the wherewithal to learn how to grow it back, learn how to replenish it back. We better become better when it comes to either looking at land, looking at ways that you can grow. Maybe you can co-op a piece of property with someone. Now, these are all things that do cost money to purchase. But when everybody's still buying stuff in town and they're wasting their money on the coolest fashion or the nicest car, you better be saving your money and start buying stuff that can bring value to you. I laugh. There was a guy I knew that wanted one of the Ford Broncos so bad 2 or 3 years ago when they first come out. I mean, he got on a waiting list, spent countless times And again, as I said, didn't have the money for it. This thing when it came out was what, $90,000, $95,000? Complete waste of money. He bought it. You know what those things are worth now, 3 years later? Around 30, 35, 40. Now there's some new ones you can still buy. But if you really wanted one and it didn't really matter, they all look the same, you can buy one now for about $35,000. Still crazy pricey. So that person lost $20,000 a year basically. That's $1,500 to $2,000 a month just in principal and interest. See, when we have bad policies, it makes us have bad money, and it makes us have bad values, and it makes us have unsound money. Then it makes us have a system that we're in right now. Let's start being smart with money. Look at assets and land. Look at gold and silver. Look at emergency medicines and learning herbal remedies. Look at skills. How to be a man again. How to raise men again. How to raise women again. Learn to know what wants and needs are. And learn to still keep some cash. Because there's a time where this could all get better, but to know to have cash when a storm comes, it'll be okay. Guys, let me know your thoughts. This was warned to us from John Quincy Adams, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. They all warned of the Panic of 1819. The whole Panic of 1819, I want you to go back and read it, was dealing with the fact that we printed paper money and we couldn't back it on anything. Then we got better, we put it on the gold standard, but then in the 70s we decided to take it off the gold standard. And now we're back to unsound money. Paper that you can burn in a fireplace if all of a sudden the trust of the government and the faith of the government goes away. You know what makes our dollars worth a lot? Well, fuel. Well, all of a sudden, this Democrat Party is wanting to move away from fuel. You know what else? War. The power of our military. So I wonder why the Democrats are now always wanting to go to war. Makes you think, huh? Pay attention. Our money has got just a numbered days. And it's time to make sure that you're prepared past the dollar. Let me know your thoughts, guys. God bless.